Let's go. We are now admitting everyone.
Hey folks, thanks for joining us. We're going to give folks a couple of minutes to log on. Folks can just sit tight for a little bit. We'll start our program shortly. Welcome everyone. For who's just joining us, we're going to get started in about 3 to 4 minutes. We're going to let folks kind of join over the next couple minutes. Super curious to know where folks are joining us from. So if you want to give a shout out in the chat, say hi, your name, and where you're calling in from. That'd be great. Cool. Connecticut, Chicago, Georgia, Virginia, Massachusetts, New York, Missouri. So many great folks all over the place. New Orleans. That's fun. Delaware, New Jersey, more California, Michigan, Virginia. For folks who are just joining us, we're giving folks a little bit more time to join before we start our program. We've got people from all over the country, which is really exciting. If you want to introduce yourself, drop your name, pronouns, where you're calling in from. Belgium. Very cool. Quebec. Stockton, I'm not too far from there. All right, we're going to get started. I'm sure we're going to have a couple of more people joining over the next couple of minutes, but we want to thank everybody for joining and get started with our program. Welcome to the Opportunities for Climate Solutions and Green Careers. This is an event hosted by Climate Action Campaign, Change the Chamber. We'll introduce ourselves here in a minute. But a big thank you for everybody coming out tonight. The things we'll be covering here are a little bit of a lay of the land, what we're dealing with here with the climate crisis. We'll review a couple of different options for actions folks can take and solutions that are out there to engage with your communities and try to create a greener and a healthier world. Ways to get involved in careers that also crop up and work towards a cleaner and greener world. So we're really excited to have folks joining us tonight. We're going to hop right in. I want to do a quick intro of myself and Climate Action Campaign, and then I'll pass it over to our co-host, Change the Chamber. So my name is Haley. I use she, her pronouns. I am calling in from Northern California, just south of Lake Tahoe. I live in the woods because I love nature. It's my favorite thing. And I'm a project director with Climate Action Campaign. So I oversee some of our national organizers who are working in a number of different states across the country to organize young people around climate issues and find solutions and hold electeds accountable. Climate Action Campaign, for those who don't know, is a coalition of 14 major national environmental justice and public health organizations. The campaign is leveraging our groups and partners, strong brands, talented staff, and 15+ million members all over the world to win to win big, equitable solutions for climate change. I'm going to pass it now to our co-host, Change the Chamber. I think I'm going to Ray.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ray Dunbar. I use she, her, hers, and I'm calling in from New York. I'm going to start this. If I can hit the button. There it is. All right, so I'm a fellow with the other host for tonight's event, Change the Chamber, Lobby for Climate. And if you, there it is. All right. So Change the Chamber is an international student coalition that meets with campaign managers, policymakers, and corporations to tell them to lobby for climate. We conduct research, make educational tools, and we have sent many letters to over 40 plus corporations. We also do a lot more. So feel free to check us out. Here's our QR code that will take you to our website. So I'm the first speaker for tonight's event. And before we can get into the solutions and talk about green jobs, we have to understand the breadth of the problem that we are facing. So just hang tight with me for just a bit, and then we'll get into the more uplifting topics. So in the bottom right here, we have a photo of the greenhouse effect, and you can see the light's rays hitting the earth, and then instead of bouncing off and going back out into space, it gets redirected into the atmosphere in the form of heat. And that's because it hit a greenhouse gas. One of the most concerning greenhouse gases right now is, of course, carbon dioxide. And you can see on here on the figure that for hundreds of thousands of years, the amount of CO2 has been changing, it's been shifting, and it follows like a cyclic pattern, you can see, but it's never past a certain point. That is until humans entered the picture. When we started industrializing in the early 1900s, the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere skyrocketed, and now it's resting at 416 parts per million. And following that same sharp increase is an increase in temperature. Scientists from all over the world at different research centers, which you can see down here, have all documented this and have shown unequivocal evidence of this trend of warming. We're currently at 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit of warming from since the Industrial Revolution. And this just really shows that the climate change we're facing right now is not natural, it is man-made. It's because of our emissions. I'm sure you've heard of some of the problems that we're facing because of climate change, such as increased intensification of weather, and more droughts, more floods, more forest fires, and etc. But here are a couple that perhaps you haven't thought about. So in the upper left, we have the polar vortex. The polar vortex is a swath of cold air that is right on the Arctic, and it's kept there by the jet stream, which is shown here in the arrows. It's just fast moving air. But because of climate change, the jet stream is wobbling, and it's allowing this cold air to move farther south. And it's exposing southern places to colder temperatures that they're not used to. For instance, just last year, Texas was faced with a week-long cold snap that had -degree temperatures, and that killed 246 people. So climate change isn't just warmer temperatures, it's more extreme temperatures. Climate change is also going to increase the prevalence of diseases, especially diseases carried by mosquitoes, ticks, and lice, such as Zika virus and dengue fever, and also Lyme's disease, which is a big problem for New England and the Midwest. You can see down here on this graph, just a 13-year period, and look at that spike in increase in cases. So diseases are going to become more prevalent as our climate warms. And then over here on the right, we have a study that looked at crop yields. It's a bit of a complex study, but the gist is they compared how our staple crops did in 1949 to how they did in 2009 during the most extreme temperatures in 2009. And just in 2009, you can see that all the crops experience a decrease in yield. So as the climate warms, we're going to see, we're going to have a harder time feeding people. And that's going to impact food distribution and food sovereignty. as time goes on, and it really already is. So all of these impacts that I've talked about and more are expensive to recover from. Some states already have spent upwards of $200 billion trying to trying to recover and recuperate from damages and losses due to climate change. So frankly, failure to take action with climate change is a failure to be fiscally responsible, because monetarily speaking, we can't afford inaction. And the last slide. So all of these impacts are not impacting the world equally. And that's for two reasons. One, the warming is not happening equally. So there are parts of the world that are warming 2 to 3 times faster than the global average. And most of those places are places that have actually emitted not much carbon dioxide comparatively. So they're feeling the effects of climate change when they're not a main cause of climate change. On top of this, marginalized communities are more likely to be impacted by climate change. In fact, the EPA recently released a report that found that Black and African American individuals are 40% more likely to live in areas that are projected to have the highest amount of temperature-related deaths. 40% more likely. So not only is climate change decreasing the biodiversity of our plants and our animals, it's also reducing the diversity of our own species. So environmental justice must be considered in our research, in our search for solutions to come. Speaking of solutions, I now pass this over to Ellie.
Thank you so much, Ray. Let me share my screen for you guys. Hope everyone is doing well today. I'm Ellie. I'm a fellow at Change the Chamber, Lobby for Climate, and I'm calling in from New Orleans today. So Ray brought up a bunch of incredible points about climate change and like this current status of the earth as it is today, but it's important to not get bogged down by those facts and to recognize and realize that there are so many solutions available to us, and it is upon us to act upon these solutions. So this IPCC report released earlier this month really highlights the growing roles of local communities and youth in particular in fighting this climate change and climate action in general. And another great resource is this roadmap for the global energy sector, which recommends scaling up renewable energies by 400%. And in this report, it really details that all governments need to significantly strengthen and successfully implement their climate strategies to see real dependence shifted from fossil fuels to renewable energies. And this transition cannot be accomplished without the support and participation from citizens like yourself. So as evidenced here, sustainability is directly related to so many different fields: professional development, research, student life, curricula, so many different facets of sustainability, which can be incorporated not only into everyday life, but into your degree, into your academic life. There are so many facets for sustainability to be included into. And negative language tends to turn people off of climate solutions. People don't necessarily want to be told that they can't do something. So it would be important to increase the use of electric cars, renewable energies on the electrical grid, deep decarbonization with building energy efficiency, and the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from the combustion of fossil fuels as quickly as possible, and to build a circular economy with our purchasing power as well. And there is hope, and it is not unknown that there is science that will have an impact on the climate. It's if and when people like yourselves are going to make action to towards a better and healthier climate for all of us. So I'm going to pass it off to Deb right now.
Great. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Haley. So I am also somebody who's participated and changed the chamber. My name is Debbie Rowe. I've been a professor of renewable energy technology and sustainable development for like 44 years now. And I will be talking about green jobs in a few minutes. How do you build that green and sustainability career that you want? But before we do that, we want to get to the civic engagement opportunities that are available to you. So let me explain what's going on. If you've been following the federal legislation, we really haven't had a comprehensive bill yet for the climate policies that we need. According to the scientists, this isn't my opinion, right? And so we did get the passage of the bipartisan infrastructure bill. There was some in there, but it still doesn't have the solutions we need in terms of policies to take our shot. And we have a last shot at stabilizing climate. I want you to know that the technologies are there to meet the science-based targets that we need for 2030. There's a lot of research out there that shows that, but we need the policies aligned with it as well. And it looks like in this next month, in May, the Congress again is going to take up the policies, legislation to try and get this passed. And so there are civic engagement opportunities that you have that you can choose if you want. And at this point, I will hand it over to Haley, and she can share with with all of you these opportunities. And I'm going to share my screen. So over to Haley.
Yeah, thanks, Deb. So I'm just going to run through a couple of options to make an impact. This section of our workshop is totally optional, but it will be a little bit engaging. So I encourage folks to plug in, pay attention, and be ready to maybe hop in and take some action right here tonight. I want to talk about I think the fact that we have a name for this is a little bit ridiculous because it's just organizing, right? It's just working with your communities and just talking to your neighbors and your existing networks to get to affect the desired outcome, whatever that is. We call it relational organizing, and I want to talk a little bit about that and get y'all thinking a little bit about how you can implement this into anything that you care about in your communities. So relational organizing is using your own social networks to activate engagement, educate, and take action to affect a desired outcome. It's building relationships and community with people who have similar experiences as you, are similarly impacted by the climate crisis due to identity or location or whatever it might be. And they already exist in your network. So it's really the most effective way to build power for long-term and immediate change making. We don't have to go out and find people. We all know people in our network who can take action, who have opinions, who are affected by the climate crisis. And really, this is about activating them. And then generally speaking, we've got some pretty big problems to deal with, especially when talking about the climate crisis. And it's going to just frankly take all of us working together to create that healthier, cleaner, and greener world. And so I encourage everybody to kind of think through that a little bit. And what does that mean to build power in your own networks and your own communities? We can go to the next slide. So why relational organizing? Some of this is a little bit wonky, like, organizer talk, but I'm going to go through it. I think it's important. So one, when somebody who you know, or somebody that you're interacting with to take some sort of action, it's just a much higher quality personal interaction. So for example, if I, an organizer, were to cold call you and ask you to take an action, you'd be like, who is this guy? But if your neighbor, your sister, your roommate asked you to take action, you're a little bit more willing to maybe listen and participate in that action. So we just know that it generates higher quality interactions than just like a paid organizer giving you a call. We also get higher contact rates. So you're more likely to pick up a phone call or a text message from somebody you know than somebody random. There are more contact opportunities. So I really like this kind of image in the far right. You can really think about this exponentially growing out, right? Like everybody knows somebody. And the people in your networks also know other people in their networks that maybe aren't in yours. And that can just be exponentially growing in how we're educating our communities and activating folks, right? And then the other thing that I'll just say here, so we'll leave it at that. And then positive peer pressure. So, peer pressure is a real thing, but let's do it in a positive way and encourage our friends and our family to really look at the world around us and answer the call to action and show up and participate in our democracy, in our communities, in making a bigger, broader change. And then folks are just more likely to want to participate when their peers are asking them to do it versus somebody random. Longevity. So when I talk about this, I'm talking about longer power building, right? Like we can pass legislation tomorrow that deals with a number of issues around the climate crisis, but we know that there's still going to be a whole bunch more issues that are popping up. For us to really effectively create the world that we want to see, we need longevity when it comes to this type of work. And having those already existing networks of folks who are activated around issues and educated around it allows us to just really easily maintain that sort of longevity into the next couple of decades of what this, fighting climate change is going to require of us. And then it just builds stronger communities. Like, I don't think that there's any downside to building stronger communities, but we just generally need to rely on each other, and we need to network with each other, and we need to have strong connections to deal with some of the biggest issues that our world is presenting us with. Just a real quick explanation of these kind of the pictures at the bottom right. So this bottom left is what we call relational mobilizing. So that's like, activists are in the middle of that, kind of like organizers are in that middle circle, right? So myself, I'm an organizer. I get a paycheck over it. I have things that I have goals around. It's my full-time job. If I were to contact people to take action on an issue, that only goes so far. I can maybe get them to take some action, right? The right-hand side, this is relational organizing. So this is organizers in the middle, me, contacting activists around the edges, you all, and saying, hey, activate your networks, build connections with your networks, figure out what your networks want to take action on and organize them. We don't need me telling everybody like, here's the direction that we need to go or the resources that you have. You all are, in our communities, know best what your community needs. And so, yeah, so I just think from a image standpoint, thinking about how we build movement, you can see that the relational organizing opens up all those, higher interactions, more contact rates, and the longevity of the type of movement that we need. We can go to the next slide. So I'm going to talk about how to activate your networks and choices that you can do to take action. So this is the interactive part of my portion here. So I'm going to actually really encourage you all to do this, and I'm going to maybe ask for a little bit of a share out in the chat after. So 1, think through 5 people in your network right now who want to see a greener world: family, friends, roommates, classmates, coworkers, neighbors, an old Tinder date that it just didn't work out with, but they cared about the environment, right? Think through really who are your networks, who do you know, who cares about the environment. I'm challenging everybody to think about 5 people, but I bet you can do more if you really went through your phone and really thought about it. But right now, write out 5 folks. And then think through what problems you want to address, what issues do you want to take action on, and how do you want to take action. So I'm going to give folks an option here for a way to mobilize your folks, but generally this is a model that you can apply to all sorts of things, whether it's cleaning up the park in your neighborhood, getting a compost bin set up on campus, or voicing support around other policy issues. Once you figure out what that is, then all you have to do is engage your networks, send them a text, tell them what you're passionate about and why, open up a conversation and ask them to take action with you. So I want everybody to have an opportunity to kind of soft run test this out. Here is a petition that Climate Action Campaign is working on right now that calls for energy independence through investing through more renewable energy. If you support it, go ahead and sign it. And then this is also a QR code that you can scan. So if you're watching from the live stream, or it's a little bit easier for you to access the link with your phone here on the screen, go ahead and do that. I'm going to give folks a quick second to sign if you agree. and then text it to your 5 people that you just wrote down. Help us spread this petition and get more support for renewable energy. And then take your first crack at relational organizing. So real quick, in the chat, while folks are doing that, who are you sending it to? Cool, friends, roommate? I sent this earlier to my old boss, friends and parents. Network via newsletter, we love that. Yeah, all the X's. All right, cool, right? So we're getting a good sense of like the type of people that we want to send it to. I think that this is an action that is a really easy way and accessible way to organize for bigger change making, is just thinking about the people in your networks who also care about these issues. We can go to the next slide. So just to kind of wrap this up here a little bit on what relational organizing is and how you can best use it to organize your communities around climate issues. Once you've started the conversation, keep it going. Find out what they want to see change in your community or nationally or internationally. Keep them engaged, keep that political conversation going, or that whatever that conversation is to create a better world and community. Ask them to continue to take action and keep sending opportunities to engage and educate, right? It doesn't just stop with what you just sent them here a couple minutes ago. Keep that conversation going. If they got excited about that, great. Ask them to text 5 people, right? See how far you can get that going and tell them to report it back out to you. Keep them engaged. If they get excited about one action, they'll probably get excited about more actions. So why not continue to follow up with them? And then I think it's a little bit more than just like, cool, here's another action that you can take. Like actually engage them. Say, how did it go? What did you think of that action? Can you think of 5 people to send it to? What is something that we should maybe work on together? What do you care about? And I can send to some folks. And then the more we talk about the issues with each other, the better organized we are to continue to create a better world. You know, I think that we naturally try to individualize ourselves, and we need to break out of that. We need to collectively deal with some of the greatest issues that our, humans have ever faced, our planet has faced. And we can't do that alone. We need to start activating our own networks. I'm going to ask that you go to the next slide, and there's just another bonus example of an action you can take. Take a picture of this phone number, write it down, do what you need to do. If you call this phone number, it'll prompt you to put in a zip code, and it'll connect you to your specific member of Congress. Give them a call. Tell them how you care about the climate. All of that is extremely important, and they need to hear from us. And then implement those relational organizing skills that we just went over, and go ahead and text it to the same 5 folks and ask them to make a call. Real simple actions, but it goes a long way. I think that's it for me. I think I pass it to Evie.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll share my screen now. I am Evie. I'm also a fellow with Change the Chamber Lobby for Climate. I'll see this. So I also have good news for you when you're thinking about how to act on climate change. If you're like us, you might have thought about how can you get a green job to do this in your day-to-day life. So increasingly, governments, businesses of all sizes, and other key employers are greening their jobs, products, and processes. This is a trend we're seeing worldwide and in the US. And green jobs are also being created on top of that. This has helped green jobs grow at a much faster pace than other categories of jobs. LinkedIn recently released their global green jobs report that shows demand for green skills will continue to grow and outpace the supply of employees educated about green products and processes. So this is a chart from the report. This is showing that globally jobs are becoming increasingly green. So this green line at the top is the share of green jobs and it shows their increase. This is jobs that did not exist before, and this is all new. This darker green line is greening jobs. These are jobs that had already existed and are becoming more green. So you can see like it dipped here and it's increasing here. That could be because they're becoming like completely green jobs. So we can see that green industries are increasing at a faster rate than non-green industries. This is just one example. In the past 5 years, jobs in the renewables and environment sector increased by 237%, while oil and gas jobs only increased by 19%. And if this trend continues, renewables are on track to outpace fossil fuel jobs by next year. So this is more from the report. It shows that job postings requiring green skills grew by 8% annually from 2016 to 2021, while the share of candidates with green skills only grew by 6% annually. So it's good that both these are growing, but if this disparity continues, employers with green jobs will have trouble finding qualified applicants for those jobs. And then we won't have people doing those green jobs that we need. So if you're thinking about what you can do to just help your general job search, green jobs are a good option. So the fastest growing green jobs are within sustainability, renewable energy, and environmental remediation, while the fastest growing greening jobs that already existed are kind of more general. So there's mainly various types of management and sales. So over here, you can see the fastest growing green jobs, which are the dark green, and then the greening jobs are the light green. So their sustainability manager is the fastest growing, environmental health and safety, got your solar and wind, renewable energy, ecologist, which is environmental science, that kind of field. Then for greening jobs, got like managers, see compliance managers, all sorts, and technical sales representative is pretty big. So right now I'm going to ask you, what barriers have you encountered searching for a green job if you have searched for a green job? And I'll ask you to put that in the chat. It'll be addressed by our next speaker. Just give you a couple of seconds to start out. Okay, so I'll go to the next slide. We have skills that are in demand by employers versus what green skills members of LinkedIn have added. So when you could create a LinkedIn profile, it'll ask you to add your skills by basic keywords. Doesn't ask real in-depth questions. And when employers are posting their job postings, they do the same thing. So this left graph or table is the top in-demand skills that are required by employers that have posted green jobs. Sustainability is a requirement of over a quarter of green jobs that are posted, while on the right side have top green skills added by members. Sustainability is still at the top, but that's only half the percentage of the green jobs that are posted. And then like the employers seem to be a bit more targeted. You can see over here, the job seekers are a bit more general. So if you're looking for a green job over LinkedIn, I would recommend that you add your skills like based on these keywords, what the employers are specifically searching for. That might help in your search because the technology that they use will look for those keywords specifically. And this is another graph from that report. It shows the fastest growing green skills, and it may suggest new trends that are emerging. So I thought this one was interesting. Sustainable fashion is at the top. I can't see the years, but I think it's 2016 to 2021. Shows that during that time frame, sustainable fashion almost doubled. So this might show like there's new trends, like there's companies and consumers are becoming more knowledgeable and demanding more sustainable processes and materials in their in the goods that they're consuming. And then so the next ones down are like environmental services and oil spill response. So to me that looked like climate adaptation, which is becoming more able to adapt to climate change's impacts. So this is acknowledging that climate change is happening and it's causing negative impacts, and there's a demand to help people that are living with climate change's impacts to learn how to live with them and not be under, like, not suffer the health impacts or, you know, everything bad that happens. So adaptation may include like this oil spill response, cleaning up oil spills to make the coastlines more habitable, installing flood walls, planting trees in cities. Yeah, you get the idea. So the LinkedIn report was more global, but the US Department of Labor also agrees that green jobs are growing within the US. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects that employment opportunities for environmental scientists and related specialists will, so that's kind of vague, but they're saying it'll grow 8% over the next 10 years. This is faster than other industries, and these jobs tend to pay more than the overall median income levels. So if you're looking for a job, it might be something you want to look into. And from MISI, which is a workforce research firm, they concluded with the Department of Labor that green jobs are growing, and they found that 9% of the American workforce is in a green job already, and this number is expected to grow enormously over the next decade. So if you want to find the green job for you, you go to this careeronestop.org/green careers. It's from the Department of Labor. At that website, you'll find career overviews, so the education required, wages, and you'll find what new green jobs have been added from the shift to the green economy, or what jobs are greening. And you can also search by what education. Yeah, you can put in like what education you have, and it'll show jobs that fit that. So if you don't want to do more school, you can find something already suited for you, or if you know you want to go back to school, you can see what you might be able to find in the future. So here's another screen cap from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's the fastest growing occupations of all jobs. From 2018 to 2028, they're predicting solar and wind are the fastest growing jobs out of all industries within the next 6 years. So if green jobs are not in your area yet, you should be on the lookout because they will be soon. And I'll pass it to Deborah. She'll be our next speaker.
Okay, great. That was wonderful. That was really great. What a pleasure. Okay, so here's some things I want to share with you. I have been helping people find green careers and sustainability careers for like 44 years. And what I find is one of the biggest problems is that they only take the first approach to finding the job. That first approach is to look for jobs that talk about being green jobs or sustainability jobs, and they apply for them. We've actually been quite successful over the last 10 to 15 years, bringing sustainability more into the mainstream in education, somewhat in high school and a lot on college campuses. And we have like 1,700 programs that either are around environmental or sustainability programs. So you have a lot of people graduating now who are looking for these jobs, and industry and governments, they're ready to start implementing their climate action plans and their other plans around adaptation, mitigation, renewable energies, etc., green cities. But they want people who have some experience. And you could see that in the chat just now. People said, I look for jobs, but they need experience. So yes, you can apply for those jobs. But if you do that, you're going to need to get some experience. How do you do that? You turn to your teachers while you're still in school and say, please, instead of writing this paper that gets graded and handed back, but doesn't actually do anything in the real world, can I work on a real world project? Can I go to the local city and find out what the mayor needs in terms of their sustainability or climate plan? Can I look up the local environmental organizations or climate action groups and see what I can do for them? Can I do a project around that? I'll still write you a paper, but let's make the paper useful to the people who's, are actually implementing the solutions, because we don't have time to waste. So we actually have a little script for you. If you go to if you go to projectsthatmatter.org, you'll see there listings of some places where you can volunteer for jobs, but also you'll see a script when you scroll down on the first screen as to what you can say to your teachers so that you can end up getting that experience while you're still in school. Another place to get the experience is volunteer for a place like Change the Chamber, Lobby for Climate. We have, they have, I should say, a core team of 30 young people. We've had high schoolers, we've got undergraduates, we've got graduate students, and we've got graduate people who have already graduated, who are out in the world, all being part of this core team. And we have 12 active teams. We have 100 student groups from around the country, and the kinds of experience that they get. Well, you're seeing the experience. Many of them are presenters tonight. Think about how that looks on the resume, right? That you've organized events, that you've presented these facts, that you have a title as a climate fellow or a student fellow. So there are ways for you to get that experience as a volunteer. You can get internships. Lots of times colleges will actually give you money to be an intern when the organization you're volunteering with doesn't have it. So yes, you can apply for existing jobs, but you also have to make yourself stand out somehow. I had one student, he wanted to work for this one solar company. He showed up every day. He sat in that lobby and said, I'm not leaving till you give me a job. And if you hand me a broom, I'll sweep this area right here. Or if there's anybody who needs help today, I'll just do that. He ended up getting some low-level job. They sent him back to school. He runs one of their research labs. The passion shows, and also good recommendations help. The other thing you can do is go on to events. And when you're on the event, make comments in the chat and say, I'm looking and here's my skills. There are ways to make yourself stand out. But here's an even better strategy. And that is bring a green lens to any job. You know, jobs use resources. The companies, the nonprofits, the governments, wherever you work, they're using resources, and you can come in at whatever position you can get. And then you can say, I'm interested in being more environmentally responsible in this organization. And so I'm going to start, there's lots of ways to start it. You can start a brown bag lunch for those that are worried about the environment. You can start a little newsletter that goes out. See which strategy works. You can start a gathering where people come together after work. You become known as the sustainability person inside the organization. And that may not have anything to do with your job. But at some point, that organization may grow to the point where they need a sustainability committee or a sustainability officer, and you become the natural choice. And if you don't stay at that organization, you can still list the things that you did. Convening, put up a suggestion box. How can we reduce our pollution? How can we save money on energy? And you're the one who looks at the choices and shares it with management. It's like being a change agent from within to create the changes that the organization needs, but also gives you that experience that you can put on your applications. The third thing, and look, I have a whole bunch of strategies. I only have 5 minutes, so I'm just going to share this with you. But on May 1st, we are going to have one of our core team meetings where we're going to continue this more. So if you're interested in that, you can look at changethechamber.org and you can sign up. You'll see in the newsletter, and then we will be announcing that. It can't be May 1st. It must be the first Friday in May, I think, May 6th. But anyway, we'll get the announcement out to you. The third strategy is create the green jobs that we need that don't exist yet. So for instance, energy managers, right? A lot of companies now and cities and other hospitals have energy managers. That profession didn't exist when I first started teaching. And people would walk into organizations and say, hire me, and I will save you at least that much money in the first year. And if I don't, I'll pay you the difference. Or I know people who said, you don't have to pay me anything. Let me just go through. I want 10% of what I can save you. And they made a lot of money. And they also established the profession of being an energy manager. There's lots of jobs like that. of things we need that don't exist yet. And so being kind of an entrepreneur, right? You can, of course, start your own company, but a lot of new companies fail. But if you can do these kinds of working from within, shifting the system, that's what we need anyway, right? Is to shift our system. So be an entrepreneur from without or from within and use these 3 strategies. Okay, so I wrote an article about this. It was on the front page of Career Advisor magazine, I think 10 years ago. We've now updated it. There's the QR code. You can go to it. It's got a lot of good ideas in it. I hope it's useful to you. If you think it needs more things, please contact us. We're glad to, update it more. And there's also inside of there a listing that goes to over 80 websites. Those websites list green and sustainability jobs. They also list career information and career advising resources. So we took the time to put it together for you. So please go ahead and enjoy. A lot of young people really care about this, right? I know adults aren't working fast enough to try to stabilize climate, and students and other young people, your voice matters. So please use your voice. And how can we do that? Because we need to move beyond doom and gloom. When your teachers start teaching you about climate change and you go, whoa, this is just getting me anxious and depressed, say to them, you know what? We want to hear about the solutions. And not just what you can do as an individual. We won't get there from that, but system solutions for climate change and the clean energy transition. So how can you help change education? Well, I've given you a few ideas, but here's another one. Ask your teachers in all your courses to teach about climate solutions. So you can be better. You can be better in your roles as consumers, make better choices as workers, as investors. You're the future investors in all these companies, right? And helping to shift our economy. And as community members, many of whom can vote. It really matters that we don't get more climate denying or science denying people in the state and federal legislatures. And then every college has a faculty senate, or maybe it's a different name, but it's usually that. Go to the faculty senate, go to the college president and ask them to include environmental and social responsibility as an outcome for all students. Because to get a degree or a certificate, or even just take a few classes at a college and not be literate about our sustainability challenges and our climate crisis, we shouldn't be giving out degrees and certificates that keep people illiterate about what's going on there. So ask them to include it. A lot of colleges already include these environmental and social responsibility as an outcome for all students. Why social responsibility? We need to be inclusive. We need to create these solutions for all, because that's what a healthy society does. So you have the power. We can choose a sustainable future. And now I'm going to hand it over to Emma, who actually has a wonderful toolkit to share with you that the youth created at Change the Chamber. Emma?
Yes. Hi, let me share my screen. Where is that presentation? Sorry, can you guys see this?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So thank you for having me. My name is Emma Vagelos, and I am a fellow here at Change the Chamber. So another huge aspect of our campaign is reaching out to other youth globally. We recognize a hole in climate education where we spend a lot of time in the science and doom and gloom of climate change, but spend little time on solutions between broad terms like adaptation and mitigation. This project started as a brainstorming session on how to support our coalition members and bring them deeper into the fold of facing our climate realities by creating real solutions. In our research, we found that many toolkits on change making or activism out there would use vague terminology such as just be a better listener without ever saying how or what it means to others. We were trying to explicitly guide readers through skills that would make a change in their life and the environment. This toolkit then became a way for us to provide audiences with those resources. We took to our own organization and networks to collect learning tips from students, educators, and longtime activists, asking them to share what has been useful to them in their change-making journey. This all culminated in the How to Be an Environmental Changemaker toolkit. This toolkit is to empower you to be who you want to be in the world, to help you become more effective at making the world a better place and reduce your worries about climate change by helping with the solutions. This toolkit is taking education and showing how it could be applied into climate action. We would love to then walk you through this document and explain its key sections and how to use it. Our first big section is a self-help resource titled Self-Care and Resilience, as we believe an essential first step to change making is the betterment and understanding of oneself. In taking care of ourselves, we can put our best efforts into changing the world around us. This includes sections like how to avoid climate doom, learning to set healthy boundaries, and bringing love and positivity into your life. After learning to work better with others, we want to guide readers through after learning to work better with ourselves, we want to guide readers through working with others. The essence of change making is making a difference in people. Change making also isn't an act done individually, and we need to work with others to create this lasting change. This means learning about that good listening we mentioned earlier, how to create a narrative, and finding common ground with people across the political spectrum. We need coalitions of people like those of you on this call today to make change, and we are trying to instruct our readers how to form them. Another huge aspect of this section is communicating information effectively. This includes 3 major aspects: public speaking, writing, and social media. Communicating information and emotion is essential to change making, as you need others to understand and join you in your efforts. After learning to work with yourself and others, there needs to be action to cement these changes and bring them to a broader audience. This means understanding systems change and learning how to work within the system or against it to reach that goal. While many universities have stepped up their sustainability departments and degrees, there's been very little help from the youth entering the workforce trying to find environmental careers. People are getting disheartened not only by the lack of jobs, but by the lack of advice and general support. Here we are providing succinct job tips, like the ones Deborah mentioned earlier. Finally, this last section reaches out to students and how to be an active member of a learning community. We're preparing them to work, to do the work and to have the tough conversations in the classroom. So this document is full of links and references to other work from professionals on the topic. We know that while we are the expert in our own experiences and life stories, there are often those who know topics such as psychology, which we delve into in our self-care section more than we do, and we want to provide a guided deep dive into these topics as part of this toolkit promoting research and exploration. We also speak on allyship and marginalized communities, directing readers to authors with those identities to allow people to speak for themselves and not have their narrative rewritten. One major aspect of this is that it is a living document, meaning that we are looking for more tips to add and asking our readers to comment what we could do to help. In this current age, any stagnant advice becomes obsolete as the world, and specifically the culture around climate and sustainability, changes very quickly. We're also currently working on connecting these youth, specifically recent graduates, on an online forum so that they can get easy access to the resources we provide, such as a speaker series or things like tonight, but a connection with other people going through the same thing. This toolkit can be a resource for climate education on the importance of action and the step from the classroom and learning to actual change. The QR code on the screen is a link to our website where you can access this document, and I will also put it in the chat in a second. And then also while you're on our website, check out our other work in our weekly newsletter.
That's great. Thank you so much. So I just want to acknowledge that Dan Casper is in the audience tonight. He is a community college instructor teaching this kind of stuff. And he's saying he's got jobs, but he doesn't have the students. And so it's really, there's so many jobs that are out there. And so you may want to look at that list that I talked about in the article, but there's also the Department of Labor. I used to give a speech where I had 17 pages of green and sustainability jobs that people don't even think about. So lots of good opportunities there. And once again, we can talk about that later if you want to join us that first Friday, I think we're going to do in May. But anyway, sign up at changethechamber.org, and the newsletter, I guess, is going to announce it. All right. So let's go back, and we've got Amber is going to tell us about more opportunities. Ooh, why is that doing that? There we go. More opportunities that you have for engagement. Amber?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name's Amber. I'm a current graduate at Arizona State University. I majored in sustainability with an emphasis on global studies. So I saw that a lot of people in the chat said that they're from Arizona. So this event might be next to you if you're in Phoenix. There's also some opportunities in Atlanta, Georgia. So I suggest you scan one of these barcodes, depending on where you're from. We're just really trying to crank up the pressure on those elected leaders, really get that bold climate action, clean energy investments, just a real climate justice interaction. It's going to be Saturday, April 23rd for both events. Food, live music, games, go have fun. And then there should be some links in the chat. We'll drop those in a few seconds if no one got the QR codes. And if we go to
do you want me to go to the next slide? Sorry.
Yeah. But if you have something to add, you can.
Just, it's a great way to have fun and be part of the sustainability and climate solutions family, but also remind legislators that we care about this, right? And that we want them to pay attention to these topics and also educate them. I had 3 students who actually talked to a senator and changed their vote on an important solar bill. So you do have power, and it's interesting how they'll listen to the youth more. But of any age, it's important to get involved, and you're all welcome at these events. Okay, next.
Yeah, and also just another last opportunity. The Good Neighbor Pollution Prevention Rule might be passed this week. Or not this week, but might be passed. And there's going to be public hearings on this. So it's a wonderful opportunity, again, to make that positive difference, really speak your voice, come to this hearing, say that you care. It's only 3 minutes or less. You don't have to speak for very long. The deadline is today. So if you want to sign up, you got to do that today. Use this registration. I believe it's at the bottom right here. Yes. And then it also gives you practice on what you want to say in this middle section. They provide you on suggestions for you to practice. And then if you go to this barcode on the right, on the bottom hand, it lets us know that you attended. So to those who do this, congratulations, and we thank you.
And I think a number of the presenters tonight actually are going to be testifying. So you'll have great company. And if you've never testified before, it's fun to talk to elected representatives, and you can just come from a personal place that we care about not having pollution from one place go over to another place and harm who's usually next to the most polluting buildings are people who are poor, right? So let's all protect those who are most at risk, but protect all of us, because air pollution can circle the globe in 48 hours too. All right, so that's your opportunity. I think we're going to open this up now for question and answers, right? And for comments. So if you've got a question or a comment, if you want to put that into the chat, and then we'll try and respond and help you out. I know that we said this was going to be an hour, but you're welcome to stay on with us, and we can network with each other. So we're here for you. So let's see what we've got in the chat. Oh, good. Dan told us it's Delaware Technical Community College, which I love. I remember when I went there when you guys were years ago, you were first starting your program. But you know what? A lot of community colleges in the country have programs. So check out what you have locally. There is a tendency for people to think, oh, I got to go to a 4-year school. A lot of these jobs don't necessarily require that 4-year degree. And there's a lot of need for the kinds of skills that are in the community colleges as well. You can look in the transportation programs, the electrical programs, the HVAC programs, the business programs. Sometimes they have their own separate programs on renewable energies, on solar, on wind. Yeah. Ah, yes, Dan. So would you give us feedback? What did you think about tonight? Was this useful to you? Should we do something like this again? Give us feedback. Talk to us. And those of you who are on the live stream, you're on Facebook or on Insta, please, put the comments in as well. Thanks, Morgan. Glad it was interesting.
I have a question.
Yep, go ahead, Morgan.
Are we supposed to say it in the chat or?
No, it's okay. You can unmute. It's all right.
Oh, okay. So like, if I was looking for, like, say, like a summer job in this field, is that possible, or is more like a long-term thing?
Right. So there are some jobs that Haley, you had around affordable housing. And of course, that's related to creating a environmentally sound and just future. Did you want to talk about those? Haley, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, it took me a minute to unmute.
That's okay.
Yeah, I absolutely can. So, and then if you think it's okay, I could just drop this whole link here.
Yep. There may be some other jobs that are unrelated to the stuff we're talking about, but I know that link has the affordable housing.
Yeah, so I work with a campaign consulting group. So we work with a number of different organizations, including Climate Action Campaign, to run aspects of their work. We do a lot of really cool stuff around the country and have both full-time salaried positions available for folks, remote and in person. And we also have some pretty great opportunities too for like part-time hourly work. If you're looking for a summer job or just kind of getting involved in campaign work, it's a really great place to get into that. So we have a number of different jobs available. I just dropped a link. One, we've got a ballot initiative running in San Francisco right now where we are working to make housing affordable. We also have another campaign running in Portland, Oregon, or all over Oregon right now, where we're working to hold politicians accountable, saying essentially they need to like show up for work and that's it. It's kind of silly that we need to like put that up for a vote, but that's the reality we live in.
Yeah.
And then we've got a couple of other really interesting campaigns all over the country. Again, I think one thing to know about the outreach team is that we are field vendors, so our opportunities are constantly changing and constantly opening up, but we're always working on really important campaigns that have both, you know, progressive issues, social movement, environmental movement, you name it. We probably work on it if we agree with it. So I think generally this is just a good page to keep like bookmarked and check in on every month or so if you're looking for work, especially as we get closer to the summer. If a lot of folks are students here, I think it's a great place to go.
There's also a lot of campaigns, you guys. We've got midterm elections coming up. And so you can look at who are the candidates. The League of Conservation Voters has got an environmental scorecard, right? Abby, that's what it's called. And so you can look at what the voting is of the people running for office and whether they are going to be protective of the environment or not. And you can go into the campaign offices and say, I would really like to see this person be elected. Of course, they have volunteer positions, but they oftentimes also have paid positions. They tend to give the paid positions to the people who have been volunteering for a lot of hours. But it's a nice early time to get in on that. And then you should also look at the internships office, your own job placement office. If you are a student in the Career Center, oftentimes has positions that you may not even know are there. Once again, remember, you can get any job and then open up the conversation about, are you interested in being less polluting? Are you interested in being known as a green company? Are you interested? And then bring that information into them. There are many others. So if you haven't looked under intern, paid intern, if you need the pay, or just jobs, there's LinkedIn, there's Indeed. Look, I just gave you a bunch of websites, like 80 websites, right? So you can also search through all of those as well. Looking for a job is one of the worst jobs, right? Because you get no until you get the yes. So you have to be really good to yourself while you're looking for jobs. I remember when I was looking for my first job, I would like cry at the end of every day, right? Because it's like it's just hard to do. So just make sure you're doing things that are joyful, balance your life, you know, do a lot of self-care and connect. It's amazing what we've been able to accomplish just by going, look for webinars on climate, look for nonprofits on climate, go to those events, put your name into the chat, put your email in the chat. Say, I'm really interested. I've got these skills, XYZ. I'm looking for a great summer internship, preferably paid. Please reach out and put in your email, because, you know, you've got to get past the hundreds of resumes that get sent in. Yeah. So I hope that helps too. Okay. Other questions? What suggestions would you have for narrowing down a sector to focus on within environmental studies in order to create a specific plan for your career? Oh yeah, right? Or you're going to do a dissertation or a master's thesis and they keep telling you to go more and more narrow. I would say do a self-assessment. I would actually say, how do you want to spend your days? Do you want to spend your days outdoors? Do you want to spend your days indoors? Do you want to have a flexible schedule in terms of your work? Or do you want to have a job where you show up every day to the office? You know, there's a book out, like the 100 Best Companies to Work For. And they tell those kinds of criteria. How do you know which of those things might work for you? Notice what makes you smile. Okay, so I also teach psychology. So let me just throw that in there. Notice what makes you smile. And once you see where your joy comes from, it's really nice if you can build your joy into your job. You know, every morning for 44 years, I woke up and said, oh, I'm so excited to go do my work. By the way, a story of how you can create your own job. I started out teaching workshops, continuing ed. 1 to 2 people would show up, show them how to do solar hot water heaters out of recycled material, or solar water pasteurization in case their power goes out and they can get clean water. And once I had a little bit of that under my belt, then I went to a local place that was teaching courses. I said, I want to teach a course. And once I had a little bit of that under my belt, I actually said, I don't want to go to, I was supposed to go to a graduate school. I said, I don't want to go. I want to go work for a solar company. I walked in, I said, I'll do anything. Just, can you hire me at anything? Or I'll volunteer for a few days so you can see how valuable I am. And then maybe you'll want to hire me. And if they didn't, then I would have had experience that I could go to the next solar company. And then after a while of working for a solar company, I walked into a college and said, you need to start a program. And I can do that for you. And they said, oh, we were thinking of starting a program. I remember when Delaware started their program, Delaware Tech Community College, they didn't have a program. That was just charismatic people who said, we've got to start a program. You can walk into just about any organization and say, I'm really interested in helping you save money, reduce your pollution, or how to help make water cleaner in your community so you'll have a better reputation. So start to look at things around social impact. And then how do you narrow it down? Narrow it down by what gives you joy and how you want to do your work days and which jobs fit that. So I hope that, and listen, people change their jobs 4 times within their lifetime. Do you know that? On average. So stop being so worried that you got to pick the right choice right now. Just start with something. Don't sit in indecisiveness in your room worried about it. Get out and do things. And then you learn as you go. Other people want to respond to that question? Anybody else want to run the question and answer? It doesn't have to be me.
I just wanted to point out that Denise made some great points about high school opportunities for students. And I just wanted to say that I agree. And I wish I had something like this in high school, and it's something that we should be looking more into as well.
Especially because lifelong interests and things like for me, at least, my interest in the environment started when I was a child, just because that was the type of thing that I was raised around. So I think incorporating that in education for younger people is so incredibly important to inspire that kind of activism, really.
You're looking for a summer job? Yeah, Denise, just 1 sec. You can go be a camp counselor. And when you're a camp counselor, bring all your environmental interests to it. Become known as the environmental camp counselor. Now look what you look like in the second summer. hey, I created a curricula for youth during the summer. I mean, it's fun to get creative around this. Yeah, Denise, go ahead.
That's what I just wanted to check in. I've been in the chat a little bit. As a high school teacher, kids are really hungry to learn about this stuff, but it's not well incorporated in the high school curriculum. There's only New Jersey of all of 50 states mandates climate education K through 12. California is starting to develop a program. I'm hoping Massachusetts, where I'm from, follows suit. It's hard to bring climate education into schools. Teachers, it's really hard to bring a whole new topic or try to figure out how to get it into your curriculum. You're always stressed for time trying to get done what you have to get done, but it's so critical and so necessary. And not just in science, it really needs to be cross-curricular, interdisciplinary. So I'm out there trying, but I think if you do try to address a new population, I would definitely look for high school level. If you're so job oriented, guidance departments would eat this material up. They really, really would love to know what's in the future for their students, and this would be a great thing for guidance departments to offer. And also, you know, superintendents or even just principals of school. This has to move forward. It's just barely starting to trickle into high schools, but you know, the sooner the better as far as I'm concerned.
So all of you can go to uspartnership.org, then click on resources. We'll click on take action. You'll see some great stuff there, but also click on resources and you'll see the K-12 page. And so we had a coalition of the superintendents, the principals, the math teachers, the social studies teachers, the science teachers. And there's all sorts of resources there on how to integrate this into your classes. There's also something called CLEAN, Climate Literacy for Energy and Awareness Network, or something like that. And I forget what it stands for. But if you just put in CLEAN Network, that was organized out of NOAA, somebody at NOAA, National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, one of our federal agencies. And then we have a bunch of people who are on here who talk tonight, work on 2 green jobs initiatives you're welcome to be part of. One is look up the National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance. Let me say it again. National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance. You can look it up. You can join. We're having convenings. We're having solution summits. That's at the national level. And then internationally, we're working with UNEP, the United Nations Environment Program, and a bunch of other people. And we have a Green Jobs Initiative. And so I think Evie is probably, are you dropping those into the chat? And then people can sign up for both of those things. You can be part of our virtual community internationally as well as nationally. And there's an international network of high school teachers that are working on this stuff too. But I agree, Denise, it should get into the required curriculum. It's kind of in the next generation science standards, kind of in the Common Core, but we need to make it stronger. Yep. Okay, I don't need to answer this one, but I think you all can. How do you feel like you're doing enough? I just always feel like there's more that I can and should be doing. So who's got answers to that?
Actually, I have something I would like to say about that. So I feel the same way. I often like, oh no, I'm not doing enough. Oh no, I've got this coming up and this coming up and this coming up and got to prepare. I wish I could do this and that as well and all of that. And I found that it's just helpful to take a second and just think of everything that you have done. Just pause and be like, think of where you are right now and where you used to be just a year ago or several years ago. Just give yourself credit for what you have done and make sure you take those moments to appreciate that. And then you will realize, wow, I have done a lot. I have made a lot of progress. It's just important to keep that in mind.
I would also say having something that you do every week. I do Change the Chamber every week, and it makes me feel like I'm actually doing something, and I feel like I can get myself out of the doom and gloom cycle. And obviously, We would love to have more people here, but also just having something that you locally participate in, that you feel like is doing this kind of work, that is doing similar work, is going to make it feel much more real and much more fulfilling for you. So I would suggest doing something like that.
Hey, Emma, you want to say something? Just in case they're not looking at the chat.
Oh yeah, so I plugged again the Changemaker Toolkit, as we have a section on the specific burnout and climate work. A lot of activism work is very prone to burnout because it often feels like we're just one person against like this big systemic issue that really one person can't solve at all. But there are steps of like finding those small joys and locating what tangible steps you can make, making a list of what I can do and what I can't do, or what's goals, but I can't do that as one person. But looking at yourself and then looking at the people around you and using the people around you to not only support you socially, but to use them as a network to make bigger change.
I have a couple of other thoughts. Okay. One is you are part of a big family. You don't have to solve this all yourself. We are the family of sustainability. We used to call ourselves SISBRO, Sisters and Brothers in Sustainability. We had these rules. It's like, we're all too busy to remember each other's birthdays. We meet at conferences or we just meet at events like this, like-minded people. So know that we're all part of a community. If we happen to exchange phone numbers, we had this rule of it was okay to call and just vent about how frustrated you are that the adults aren't moving faster. And you didn't expect a phone call back. It was just, you know, sometimes we needed to share that with somebody else working on it. But remember, you're not the only one working on it. We could have spent tonight just talking about the amazing things that are going on, where people are taking action to create solutions. Yes, we know it's not fast enough. And yes, we do know there's going to be some unnecessary human suffering that we could have avoided. But there are still a lot of potentials for the human species to step up. And so, you know, be a part of it because it makes you feel better, right? And it's not all on you.
I think the note that Evie put in the chat too, in case anyone's not looking, is super important because it's something that I like personalized for a very long time, like that I had such an effect on the environment and that I needed to do all these things to reduce my personal effect on the environment. But it's not, the blame does not fall on the consumer's shoulders. And I think that to remind yourself of that is incredibly important. And on another note of like the whole, like, this is a community, a problem that I've had myself is that I'll take on too big of a project and I think that I have to do it and I can't ask other people for help, but like we exist in a community together where other people can help you and they want to help you and they can offer their services and expertise that you don't have because you can't know everything. So just like, again, like asking people for help, it can be very scary, but it's super important, especially in a collaborative space like this.
Other questions or comments, or are we done? Yep, good point, Abby. We, by the way, one of the things that the youth do at Change the Chamber, it's a youth-led organization, it's non-hierarchical, is they actually send letters and do social media to corporations, calling them out for being hypocritical. You say you care about climate, you may have reduced your carbon footprint a little bit, but where are you? Why aren't you supporting these policies that we need? And they definitely call out the Chamber of Commerce, who has funded a lot of people who are now in Congress who are climate deniers. They say they care about climate and then they only do partial policies. So a lot of fun. And we've made changes. We could tell you stories of the impacts that we've had. I say we because I get to come and visit and be privileged and honored to work with the young people who run Change the Chamber. And also with Haley, it's just been a real pleasure to work with you. and to see the work you do with long-term dedication, right? Year in, year out. Yeah. Great, Dan. Okay. I think, are we done? What do you guys think?
Unless anybody has any more questions, I have nothing else to say.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
keep going, Denise. Thank you.
Positive feedback right now.